Welcome back to our Dress description. In today's class, we learn how to make this beautiful halter neck gathered dress. You can see the gathering around the neckline. It's actually a free dress, as you can see, and it's really simple and beautiful to make. So here, if you want some form of fitness around the waist area, you can decide to just add an external belt to it and then use that to create that fitness that you want. It's very simple to make. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so for this time, I'll be drafting this on my pattern paper first so that we'll understand it and see it clearly, because the fabric I'm using is a silk fabric and it's slippery first, and also it's not going to be very visible marking on it. So now I have my pattern paper like this. So the first thing I need now I want is an off shoulder. So for me now, I'll be going off by 4 inches, but because I want to add a casing allowance of 2 inches upwards, so instead of just going up by 4 inches, I'll include that 2 inches allowance to it. So 1 2, it means my off now will start from 2 inches. So now I'll start marking my points. So my actual line I want to start from is off 4 inches, which is here. And then after that line, now the next line I will be marking now is my armhole line. My armhole measurement, the actual measurement is 9 inches. That's 18 inches divided by 2. If you're okay with that, it's fine, but I don't want this armhole to be too tight, too fitted. So I'll just be adding 1 inch to that 9 inches, and that's going to make it 10 inches, which I'm going to mark here. So after marking that, because this is not a fitted gown, I'm not going to be marking my waist measurement. The next thing you can mark is your hemline, or you can also mark your hip line if you want it to be a bit shaped. So now the hip line I'm working with is 25 inches, and then I'll mark it. Then the next measurement you're going to be marking is your full length measurement, which can be short dress or a long dress, as the case may be. So this paper is just around 38 inches long, so I'm going to be assuming the 38 inches to be my full length, and I'll stop it there. So after taking these markings, now the next thing now is to make all these markings into a straight line. So now, using my pattern master, I'm going to mark them like this, and I'll try to label the lines so that we can understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is the armhole line, this is the hip line, and like I said, we don't need the waistline. So now that we have this, now the next thing is to start taking our circumference measurement. So I'm going to be starting from the upper part here, and then on the upper part I'm going to be taking the measurement in. And remember that this measurement is actually for my folding, so you can actually fold it in before you start taking your measurements. Okay, you can fold this point in. So after folding it in, you need to take your chest line measurement. So because we're going to be adding extra to it, because we're going to be passing a rope or elastic on that casing, so you need to increase that measurement. So you're not going to be using your actual chest measurement. So for me, okay, so I'm working with a chest line of 12 inches. That chest line measurement is from one on your chest area at the front body, the measurement from one part of your chest, that's where the arm connects to the body, to the other. That's 12 measurements for the full center front. I remember this is just the half scale of the front body, so I will need to divide that into 2 and make it 6 inches, but I will not be working with exactly 6 inches because I'm passing a rope to this and I need a little bit of gathering around that area. So you can actually add 2 inches or 3 inches to that, depending on the fullness that you want around that place. So if I'm adding 3 inches to that, I'm going to be having 9 inches, and then I'll mark the 9 inches there. So here on my armhole area, I'll be measuring my bust point again, because this is not a fitted dress. So the bust measurement I'm working with is 40 inches. So 40 divided by 4 is going to give me 10 inches, which is this, and then I'm going to be adding 1 or 2 inches for ease. So if I'm adding 1 inch for ease, I'm going to be left with 11 inches. So I'm going to just add 1.5 for my ease, or 2. So adding 2 inches is going to give me 12 inches, which is here. So there's no waist measurement because it's not fitted. I'm just going to move to my hip line. So the hip measurement I'm working with is, so I'm just trying to create like a mini A line effect here. Or another thing you can do is just to take your hip measurements on your armhole line here and then just take it downwards so that I can have something to trace. But I just want it a bit shaped because I don't want it to be too big around the bust area. So now the hip I'm working with is 44 inches. 44 divided by 4 is going to give me 11 inches, which is here. So I'm going to add 3 inches extra to this. So you can add 3 to 5 inches for your ease, depending on how big you want this to be. So I'm just adding 3 inches to this, and I'm going to add the 3 inches right there. So I'm just going to extend this line to get to that point. Okay, so now on the hemline you can just take this measurement that you have down there, or if you still want to maintain that A line effect, so what you have here now is around 14 inches. So you can measure the 14 inches on the hemline here also, and then add few inches to it if you want. So if you're taking it down, you just add your 14 inches now and then take it down, or you can just add maybe the same 3 inches that you added on the upper part, you can add to this part also, and then you connect everything together. Okay, so remember, in this case, if you're going to be making it to the floor length, the measurement here is not going to be 38 inches. You just measure that on your bodies, but because the pattern I'm working with is just stopping around 38 inches, so I'm assuming that to be my full length. So when I'm transferring this to my actual fabric, I'll take note of that, and then I'll make sure that I transfer it to my exact full length measurement. So now I continue to connect it, and then from there I'm going to connect this to my neckline in a slanting form like this. So you can see what we have. So now we are done with drafting. The next thing now is to add allowance to it. So I'm just going to be adding 1 inch allowance to this pattern now, and then after doing that I'm just going to cut the pattern out. So now the 1 inch that I added, I'll connect it also like this. So this is actually very beginner friendly, and it is very simple to make. So now using my paper scissors, I'm just going to cut this shape out. Okay, so I've cut this out now. This is my allowance that I left for the casing. So it's going to be folded inwards like this. So now the next thing is to place this on my actual fabric, and then I'll cut out both the front and the back. Okay, so now I've laid this on my fabric now, and I cut out both the front and back. So this is the front part, underneath is closed, and then here on the back I just left 1 inch allowance. It's not up to an inch, it's around 0.75, that's 3/4 of an inch, because the back needs to be opened for the hair to enter through it, and also for my rope to come through the center back. So now to sew it, you can either cut a facing for the armpit area here, or you just use your bias to turn this on the armpit area, depending on how you want to finish that area off. So the first thing I'm going to do now is remove my pins and take out my pattern. Then on the center back here, I'm going to sew it close, leaving around 6 to 7 inches. So I'm just going to measure maybe 7 inches. Then from that 7 inches point, I'm going to sew the opening close because it's opened like the center front. I'm going to sew it close, and then I'm going to hem the armhole area, the four armhole area. Remember, we have 2 for front and 2 for back. Then after doing that, I'm going to close my casing for the rope. So I'll just fold it in by half an inch, and then fold it in completely, then close it up there. Then after closing it, I'm going to sew it by the side. So it's a lot, but I'm just going to be taking it one step at a time. But it is a very simple process, so I'm sure we're going to get it by the time we are done. So now this is me taking out my pins, and then I'll take my center back first and close it, because like I said, this is a silk fabric and I don't want it to be giving me issues. So I'm just going to close the center back first before I do any other thing. Okay, so I've sewn in the center back as we can see, I used the black thread so that we can see my seam line, and then I left around 7 inches before I started sewing it. So after sewing it my center back, I went ahead to fold my casing in. Okay, you can see the seam line here on both front and back. So if you don't want your casing to be this bold, remember I left 2 inches allowance for my casing. You can do maybe 1 inch or just 1.5 inches. So after folding it in, when I was folding the one for the back, I made sure to fold in my allowance, my zip allowance that I opened, so that my casing can go all the way through. So you just bend in your seam allowance before you fold in for the back. So you fold in for the two backs, then after folding it in, you place the front and back together and then sew them by the 1 inch seam allowance that you left on the side seam. So you sew those two allowances in, and then your dress is ready. So like I said, it's very beginner friendly and it's pretty much simple. So after doing all this, now I'm going to turn it to the right side and we will see what we have. Okay, so this is the back. You can see the opening that we left at the back, the 7 inches opening, and then this is the front. Okay, so now to gather it, now I've gone ahead to cut out a long rope, and then I turned it so I have something like this. So now you just fix your safety pin to pass this to it. So now I'm going to be passing it from one center back to the other. Okay, so this is the center back, this is the opening that we left, so I'm going to pass it like this now, and then I'm going to use my safety pin to just navigate through it. So after passing it through the center back, it comes out from the armhole. And remember to always finish your armhole. I just left it because I just want to do this tutorial so that we can get it done on time. Then after bringing it out like this, you pass it through the front casing. So you just pass it through the front casing. So once it's out at the front area, you pass it to the back again for it to come out through the second part of the center back. So it's that simple. So you can actually do it this way and use just one rope, or you can just have two ropes. When you have one rope at the center front and then another rope at the center back, then you can just tie it by the side of your armhole area, depending on whatever it is that you choose to do. But this rope, one rope, is fine for me, so I'm just going to stick with that. So now I'm going to bring it out from here, and then this is what we have. So this rope now is going to help me to gather everything together. Then I'll take this to the mannequin to see what we'll have. Okay, so this is what we have. You can see these gathers that we have here. The rope will just help you to gather it. So if you want more ruffles around this place, remember I just added 3 inches to my actual chest line measurements, and this is how you take your chest line measurements from this point where the armhole joins to the other point, like this. So that's where you check your chest line measurement. So I just added 3 inches to this. If you want more ruffles or gathers around here, you can add up to 5-6 inches, and this is the full dress. So you can see that it's a free dress and it is really beautiful and easy to wear. So another thing you can do here on the waist area, you can decide to gather the waist with a rope. Okay, so now if you want some form of fitness around the waist area, you can decide to cut an external rope like this, turn it, and then use it to gather it as much as you want. So you can see the effects that this is giving this dress. It's very simple to make and it's really beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so before I go, I just have to show us the back. You can see how we just tied our rope, and then the allowance we left here, before you tie it, is to open it up for you so that the wearer will be able to wear it easily. So it's as simple as that. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
That's